Alright, what's up guys? Bailey here. Today in this video, I'm going to be going over 2025 in review. These are the MMA awards essentially on this YouTube channel. And yeah, I'm going to be going over KOs of the year, best cards of the year, best fights of the year. Thank you guys so much, by the way. We reached over our goal. We reached 405 subscribers as of now. I wanted to reach 400 by the end of the month, but we've done over that. So I really want to get this video out and cooked for you guys as much as I can. I mean, I don't mean the video being cooked, but, you know, cooking the product, of course. But thank you guys so much for the support lately. It's been pretty cool to see. So I'm not going to waste you guys any time. We're going to get straight into it. First, we got KO of the year. This one's pretty self-explanatory in my criteria. It's the suddenness, the violence, and just, well, the fact that it results in a knockout. So yeah, we're going to get straight into it. So starting off with my fifth pick, we got Leon Edwards. Man, he fell victim to Carlos Prates. This was a vicious knockout. Literally headshot dead. You know, Carlos Prates caught Leon stiff with a right hand, and he literally, I mean, he was out before he even hit the canvas. It was absolutely crazy, and it showed that Carlos Prates has some serious power, and that was his second knockout of this year. It was just crazy to see. Very impressive knockout. Moving on to the fourth spot here, we have Lerone Murphy versus Aaron Pico. This was, in my opinion, the best spinning elbow knockout of the year. We've had some other ones like Prates and Diego Lopez, but this one was the best one in my opinion. He caught Aaron Pico coming right in for a takedown or something. Lerone Murphy caught him and just knocked him out cold, and it single-handedly, I think, put Lerone Murphy on the map for everybody. So next for my third pick, we got Ju Sang-yu versus Jeka Serige. This knockout was absolutely crazy. I think everyone kind of forgot about it, to be honest, but Ju Sang-yu, literally no wind up, no preparation, caught Jeka coming in, and boom, caught him and just face landed him. It was crazy. It was like no effort, no setup, literally just caught him on the way in. I mean, listen, even though this isn't number one, this is definitely up there. Next one, we got Quillian Salkilled versus Nasrat Hakparast. This was the nastiest head kick KO in terms of violence. No finesse, no spinning shit, no fancy shit, just straight up shin to chin. This was absolutely wild. I mean, he was seasoned on the ground after. This was crazy. I actually had Nasrat winning this just because he was the more experienced guy. But Quillian shut that shit down immediately. Yeah, he became the minority killer as a result. But for my number one, we got Bobby Green when he got knocked out by Mauricio Ruffi. This was by far the best KO of the year. I know this was really early on, and a lot of us probably forgot about it, but Mauricio Ruffi caught him with a spinning heel kick right to the head. Caught him out of nowhere, and he KO'd him cold. It was the fastest spinning kick I honestly think I've ever seen. It was crazy, and it didn't even really look like it caught him all the way. Even though it did, it just like clipped him. It literally just, you know, it was wild, but the knockout itself was absolutely awesome. And that's why for Mauricio Ruffi, he takes knockout of the year for this one. So next coming up, we got fight of the year nominations. These ones, pretty self-explanatory, are fights of the year where we can look back at them, and these fights have aged well, where I can look at I can sit down and watch it and feel the exact same way as I did the first time. And ironically enough, many of these, I actually don't think any of them are on like a real big main card or like a real big names. That goes to show you need to pay attention to the, you know, the kind of the lower names, because they produce some really great shit. So yeah, starting off here, we got Mateusz Rebecki versus Chris Duncan. This fight was fucking war. This was an absolute scrap between both guys. Both were throwing with just bad intentions, with absolute heat behind their hands. I thought Mateusz Rebecki's durability was crazy, you know, after his fight with, you know, Midabek Orobai. But Chris Duncan's durability was also crazy. I mean, these guys were hurting each other multiple times. It looked like Rebecki got out of a fucking car wreck by the, you know, time this fight was over. Chris Duncan picked up the win. And man, these two, their durability is insane. If you haven't watched this fight, you really need to go check it out. So next fight here, we got Adriana Martinetti versus Mark Valagda. This was on Dana White's Contender Series, 9.9 I think it's called. This fight was absolutely insane. I remember when this came out on YouTube, and I just remember I sent this to my buddies in like a UFC group chat we have, and I was like, this is the fucking fight of the year. I go, if nothing better comes out, this is fight of the year. Combined 415 total strikes between the two of them, and most of the strikes, more than half of them on each side were significant strikes, meaning that they caused a great deal of damage or changed the course of the fight in some shape or form. The damage was wild on both sides. I mean, these guys were throwing absolute heat, absolutely just going to war. Adrian was mixing it in with the takedowns and the control time, which that's, I think, what got him the win. But Mark's durability, the way he kept going in the fight and just taking all the damage easily was another thing that shined through. And I just think that on a Dana White's Contender Series where, no offense, but it's not supposed to produce shit like that, and it does, it's absolutely awesome to see. And it definitely needs attention. So next fight, man, we got a pretty recent one. I don't want to have, like recency bias or anything like that, but we got Iwo versus Ibo. This fight was an absolute war. They traded knockdowns each. I mean, they both just went in and literally just go knocking each other down, get back up, and then they would knock each other down again and get back up, and both guys were willing to go, and Iwo actually got the knockout on him and won. It was a banger fight. I remember literally studying for my finals and looking up and seeing them absolutely go to fucking war. There's really nothing much else to say about this fight, but it definitely needs to be up there as fight of the year just for the simple fact that they were both, fucking fighting. It didn't even go past the first round. So my next fight here for the runner-up for second place is Joshua Van versus Brandon Royval. I believe that this fight single-handedly revived the flyweight division. Now, you can say, well, Pantoja, he has eyes, he's relevant, things like that. And that's not a bad point to make. But at the same time, no one was really paying attention to Pantoja, right? The expectation was, he's going to Kai Kara France, he's going to, Pantoja's going to beat him. Oh, Brendan Morita, Pantoja's going to beat him, and it became an expectation. But then when you had this fight, right, when you had Joshua Van coming in late notice, right, after he finished Bruno Silva 3 weeks prior, and he went in and fought the number one ranked guy in Brandon Royval, and he beat him in an absolute war. This was the best boxing in the division. Both guys were marching forward, going at it, no takedowns, no knockdowns until literally Joshua Van knocked him down. And I think it was the last 10 seconds of the third round. It was crazy. This fight legitimized Van. It legitimized Joshua Van. Simple, just simple and period. But my vote for fight of the year, it's got to go for Merab Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Listen, this fight was an absolute banger. Best title fight of the year. This fight had everything. It literally had Merab emoting on Umar Nurmagomedov, whenever he'd take him down. They were hurting each other. Merab hurt Umar with a good right hand. Merab was getting caught with some good shots, and it had exciting grappling. I've said this, a couple times now, but the crowd was popping when there's takedowns being landed. The crowd would actively roar, and just the place would explode when there would be a takedown landed, which in America, when do people like that shit? I know America, we have wrestling here, but when do we ever see in a fight where someone lands a takedown and the place literally erupts? It literally explodes. It is crazy. This fight was absolute cinema on one of the best cards of the year. And in my opinion, this is one of the best, if not the best, bantamweight fight of all time. Outside of Dominic Cruz and Cody Garbrandt, or outside of fights like that, this is, in my opinion, the best fight. I mean, this is just absolute high level between both guys, and it was just cinema. Next up, we got card of the year. Card of the year. This one was actually not that tough to choose because I'm not going to lie, man. This year, we had some pretty mid fucking cards. We had some boring cards, man. These five, I think, in my opinion, are absolute cinema. From the early prelims all the way up. These are good cards. And yeah, let's just get straight into it. We're going to start off with UFC 317. I could never put in number one Charles Oliveira getting knocked out. That's just crazy. But I will put this in number 5. This had a fight of the year in Brandon Royval versus Joshua Van. This also had a KO of the year qualifier in Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. This had a very dominant performance and finish from Pantoja against, Kai Kara France. I mean, this card was great. The card was awesome. Next card for 4th place, you got UFC 314. Man, you had an absolutely banger main event and Alexander Volkanovski and Diego Lopez, man. Like that one sequence, in the beginning where they literally traded shots and then they both go flying back, or when Lopez knocks down Volkanovski in round 2. Very iconic moments in that fight where you watch it back and it is both reflective of how experienced, and really just how great Volkanovski is, but how game and how much of a fucking warrior Lopez is, right? You also had banger KOs, right? When Dominic Reyes KO'd Nikita Krylov like Conor McGregor, he caught Krylov on the way in, bang, caught him. You also had fun buildup, in the fight of Jean Silva versus Bryce Mitchell. I remember the buildup on that fight. It was absolutely fun. And ended up with Jean Silva, submitting him. And then I just remember, Michael Chandler getting beat up by Paddy Pimblett. So, but then also you had some fun fights in there too. On the prelims, you had Chase Hooper versus Jim Miller. That was a fun one. I think that was after he said he spent too much time in his camp gooning.
Spent too much time gooning this camp. So my forearms are a little sore, so we're going to walk that back a little bit.
But I do know that Dan Ige versus Sean Woodson was good. Bit of a controversial stoppage, Sean Woodson was getting hurt and he was grabbing on for the legs and the ref stopped it. But regardless, this was an absolutely good card. And yeah. All right, my next pick is UFC 311. This was a good late notice fight between Islam Makhachev and Renato Moicano. Now, I know that it was supposed to be originally between Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan, but that didn't happen, and Moicano got subbed in. And this was good because, it provided a pretty infamous moment where in the fight, there's a little bit of an exchange, and Islam, gets knocked down or he, slips, and the crowd just goes crazy. And then, later on in the fight, in the first round, Islam manages to get him down and submits him with a Darce. Then you had banger KOs, like when Jonathan Almeida KO'd Sergey Spivak. That was awesome. Or when you had Yuri beat the shit out of Jamal Hill for 2-3 rounds straight. It was crazy. Then you had RDR humbling Mr. 4570 after the 4570 incident. He submitted him, and that was pretty cool to watch. But obviously, the big talking point is you had the fight of the year between Merab Dvalishvili and Umar Nurmagomedov, which we've already talked about, we've already mentioned, and we will mention this again in the video. So yeah, next card, we got UFC 323. I don't want to have recency bias, but this was a good card just on the surface. Outside of Joshua Van, let's just get that out the way. Joshua Van's fight, while it was unfortunate, it to me doesn't affect the card because you had a great fight between Peyton Talbot and Henry Cejudo. You had an awesome fight in the main event between Merab Dvalishvili and Petr Yan in their second fight, which was awesome. It was great. It was highly skilled from both sides. I mean, you had Merab Dvalishvili picking up and holding Petr Yan for a couple seconds. And, then you had Petr Yan scooping and dumping Merab on his head in the fight. And it was just crazy. You also had a really surprising finish from Tatsuro Taria to Brendan Moreno. It was low-key, it was a calm little, little flyweight card. Even in the prelims, you had some really fun fights in there. You had guys like Manel Torres versus Grant Dawson, where Manel Torres got the KO on him, or you had Chris Duncan versus Terrence McKinney, which that was a banger fight. I mean, they were going after each other immediately, and Terrence McKinney almost got Chris Duncan out of there in the first round, and then Chris Duncan, Farziem gets the KO win. So literally from all the way from the start till then, the whole card was just straight smoke. My winner for card of the year goes to UFC 320, Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira 2. This card was absolute cinema from start all the way to finish. In the prelims, you had Edmund Shabazian KOing Andre Muniz in an absolutely, banger performance. You also had Yuri Prohaska versus Khalil Roundtree Jr. in a banger fight. Absolute banger. Khalil Roundtree being up 2 rounds and Yuri Prohaska pushing him to this limit, coming in 1-2, bang left hook, drops him, and it was over. You also had Alex Pereira marching in and finishing Magomed Ankalaev, literally making him look like nothing, just beating his ass, dude. Corey Sandhagen and Merab, that was a banger too. That was an absolute banger fight. I'm not gonna lie, this card, it really healed the world. It healed the world in a way that needed to be healed, man, because I remember the state UFC was in before this card. Alex was the biggest thing UFC had going on, and then when he wasn't champ anymore, we were fucked. The UFC might be cooked a little bit. All right, next up on the list, we got Prospect of the Year. This one's pretty self-explanatory, as it's guys who are either lower ranked or unranked that have really had a good year. So let's just dive right in. My first runner-up for prospect of the year goes to Ethan Ewing. I can't put him over Malcolm Wellmaker. I think anyone who is low-key a bandwagon fan. He had a great late notice performance against Wellmaker, but he needs more fights. He's only had one fight this year. He's not been the most active. He really broke his way in through on a late notice prospect. It was still very impressive. It was still a very good fight, and I would love to see Ethan Ewing, the Professor Finesser, get back in there. I really want to see him get back in there and have more fights, because his fight against Malcolm Wellmaker, it was really good. But speaking of which, Malcolm Wellmaker is another runner-up for prospect of the year. He had 2 clean KOs against Chris Moutinho and Cameron Simon. Those KOs were clean, 1 shot, 1 kill, and his loss was a late notice loss. It was against a late notice opponent, and he's definitely going to come back. I think, he's 2-1 this year. He's positive. He had 2 real big KOs, 2 highlight KOs. I don't think he deserves to be completely packed out of this conversation. If you do, I ain't gonna lie, you're a bandwagon fan and you have a short fucking memory, because Malcolm Wellmaker, he was doing his shit. Everyone thought he was gonna win, and when he lost, everyone's like, oh, Ethan Ewing, the new thing. No, Malcolm Wellmaker is still here. He's gonna come back, and I really think he's gonna get another win. So next one, we got Walter Walker. He got 3 straight heel hook wins this year to Louis Sutherland, Kennedy Nchukwu, and Dontel Mays. He got more motion than most other ranked, heavyweights. I mean, he's created more noise, more buzz, more than most of the ranked heavyweights you see today. I think that he has a big potential game plan to expose the weakness in the heavyweight division, which is grappling. A lot of the grappling, they suck. Actually, the heavyweight division just sucks as a whole. I really think that outside of maybe, 4 or 5 guys in that whole division, everyone else really doesn't belong there. But yeah, no, I think that Walter Walker definitely had a great year as a prospect, and I think he has the potential to make his way through to even a contender. Next, we got Ateba Gautier. He has a 9-1 record. He has 3 nasty KOs as he KO'd Treston Vines with elbows. He KO'd Robert Valentin. He KO'd Daniel Medina. He's got some 3 brutal highlight-worthy KOs. Middleweight Ngannou's back at it again. I think he has the potential to make the rankings. I think he has the potential to really make something out of himself, and he had a very impressive year, very solid year. But my winner for best prospect of the year, I got to give it to Kevin Vlahos. He was the first guy to knock out Giga Chikka Disease. He had a great KO against Sung Woo Choi. He packs serious power, serious potential, serious technique. He looked really good in his fight night against Giga. I don't mean to have recency bias or anything like that, but I think he looked very good, and that's why he won prospect of the year. Alright guys, last awards of the video, we have fighter of the year. These are fighters that have elevated themselves throughout this period of time, and they've made them essentially the year of them, right? This is your year. You've showed up, you've shown out, and you've grown. So I'm gonna get right into it. Alright, so starting off here with my 5th pick. I know you guys probably don't even know who he is. This is Waldo Cortez Acosta. He worked his way up to the top 5 in the heavyweight division. He had 5 fights in 1 year. He's on an 8-fight win streak. He's literally the most active fighter out of anybody. Most of his wins, are a mix. They're either between KOs or unanimous decisions. There's a blend there. There's an even blend of wins. I think Waldo Cortez Acosta is very underrated. For you to have 5 fights in 1 year and to win those fights, for you to climb up to the top 5 in any division, right? And no one is talking about that, I think is crazy disrespectful to his work. So in my opinion, I gotta at least put him on this list for fighter of the year. So yeah, guys, next we got Islam Makhachev. He had a great late notice fight early this year against Renato Moicano at 311, and he became double champ and technically a champ versus champ match against Jack Della Maddalena. It was a pretty dominant performance, and he ended the year off with the pound for pound #1. The reason why he's not higher on this list is just simply because he didn't fight as much as the other guys, but he still fought on a higher level, which is what puts him above Waldo Cortez Acosta, but not as high as the other ones. Next one here, we got Joshua Van. Now, outside of the Pantoja fight, I'm just going to kind of remove that out of the way. His fight against Pantoja was unlucky. It was a fluke injury. I think we can all agree. I think that none of that was planned to happen, obviously. This is what I will say adds into his argument for being fighter of the year, is he went from unranked to champion within this time period. I think even technically less than that. I think it was like a 6-month period where he did that. You know, he had a fight of the year contender against Brandon Royval in an absolute banger of a fight, which we talked about early in this video. He got a nice, clean, dominant finish over Bruno Silva, which is what, you know, entered him in the rankings to begin with. Overall, he's had a very great year. I mean, if you really look at everything he's done in totality, he's had a great year. For my fighter of the year, and this should be a fairly obvious pick, we got Merab Dvalishvili. Merab Dvalishvili has had 4 title fights in 1 year. You know, he's 3-1 in the end. In those title fights, he's beaten 3 guys, or he's won 3 times, and has only lost once. And that was against Petr Yan, in my opinion, which was also a fight of the year. I mean, I'm talking 2 fight of the year contenders, when towards the end of the year, he had an amazing fight with Petr Yan, but then also, at UFC 311, he had the fight of the year against Umar Nurmagomedov, and in my opinion, which was the best fight of this year, hands down. I mean, that fight literally had everything. And he also had bangers, against Corey Sandhagen, which was also a really, really good fight. But overall, this is the obvious pick. I mean, Merab has made this year, this has been the year of Merab, right? I mean, he's made title defense after title defense after title defense, and just being a machine, relentless pacing, pushed himself to GOAT status within this year. And I got to be real, man. I mean, I don't think it's close. I just think that Merab has put himself so far up this year that who else would have been fighter of the year? I mean, in all honesty, really. So yeah, guys, that is it for my 2025 year in review for the UFC. It's been a great year. Little wishy-washy on some parts, but for the most part, it's been a good year. Thank you guys so much, by the way, for 406 subscribers. That is amazing. My MMA fans video is, last time I checked, was 1.9 thousand views. Okay, yeah, so I just checked that video and it has 2.1 thousand views, and I'm at 408 subscribers right now. So thank you guys so much for your support. I really try to work hard on these videos. I try to put in video clips for you guys, just memes, just a bunch of shit, so the content is good, you know what I mean? Because I like talking about it. I like doing this, and obviously you guys like watching these videos. So thank you guys so much for your support. And yeah, make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, but also comment down below. What are your guys' votes for fighter of the year, for card of the year, for all those things? Because I really want to hear it, I mean, it's very interesting. So yeah, guys, see you guys in the next video whenever I make one. Peace.